Good evening. Hello and welcome. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Anusha Soni. The Election Commission has announced the much-awaited dates for the 5 states of Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Telangana and Mizoram today. The Election Commission has declared a single-phase poll in the 4 states. Polls will be held in 2 phases only in the state of Chhattisgarh to segregate the Naxal-dominated areas. Now, the mega verdict will be announced on the 3rd of December. As the battle for the 5 states gains momentum, BJP leaders exuded confidence, sounding the victory signal and saying they will form the government, they will make strides in all the poll-bound states. On the other hand, the Congress party has upped their guarantee pitch, claiming that BJP's false propaganda will be defeated in the upcoming polls. Janata Janardan, or people, are going to decide. Experts are watching this election very closely as it's being touted as the precursor or the big semi-final before the final of 2024. The verdict in the state polls could well signify which bloc holds the edge over whom. Countdown begins for the December 3 and your headquarters is CNN News 18. Our focus on Plain Speak tonight.
Rajasthan, where the date of poll will be 23rd November in one phase entirely in Rajasthan. In case of Chhattisgarh, the elections would be in 2 phases. The date of poll would be 7th November and 17th November. Madhya Pradesh, this coincides with the 2nd phase of Chhattisgarh and date of poll would be 7th November. Telangana would go last to the poll and date of poll is 30th November.
अब तक उनके उम्मीदवार तक तो मैदान में नहीं है। कांग्रेस में आपस में सिर्फ फुटबॉल मची।
जीतेंगे कि नहीं जीत रहे हैं आप लोग मध्य प्रदेश?
100%, 101%।
चुनाव के उत्सव, प्रजातंत्र के सबसे बड़े उत्सव की घोषणा का भारतीय राष्ट्रीय कांग्रेस की ओर से हम स्वागत करते हैं।
चुनाव आयोग ने जो चुनावी कार्यक्रम का निर्णय किया है, मैं उसका स्वागत करता हूं।
और मेरा तो चुनाव आयोग से आग्रह रहेगा कि एक बार उन्हें पुनर्विचार करना चाहिए। आप 3 दिन पहले करिए या 2-3 दिन बाद में करिए, निश्चित रूप से इस पर चुनाव आयोग को एक संज्ञान लेना चाहिए।
All right, let's tell you more about what these 5 states are about. How close is this neck-to-neck contest and how critical this battle is going to be for each of the political party. Let's talk about the state of Rajasthan, the swing state for the last 2 decades, more than 2 decades. Congress at 100, BJP at 73, others at 27. But how does it really translate into the voting percentage? How does that come out to be? Look at the neck-to-neck fight in less than 1% of difference in the vote share between the Congress and the BJP. Similar, very similar patterns in the state of Madhya Pradesh and in the state of Chhattisgarh. It was a very different story. 2/3 majority, that's what the Congress party got. 68 seats, 15 for the BJP and 7 others in this state. The voting share, the difference was well above 10% by few decimals there. Let's talk about the state of Madhya Pradesh. Once again, a neck-to-neck fight between the Congress and the BJP, a state which has traditionally chosen between these 2 parties. 0.18%, that was roughly the difference in the voting share of the 2 parties. And in the state of Telangana, what exactly is the picture? TRS at 88, Congress at 19, BJP at 11. Here, of course, it's a 3-way contest between these 3 political parties. And the voting percentage here in front of you, TRS taking the major chunk of 47%, being the dominant regional force here. Let's put this into context and let's try and decode this. What will this victory really mean for each of the political players? This is indeed the precursor to the big battle, and the EC announcement of the dates has only set the narrative for the times to come. We will see the political discourse getting more shrill in the times. My colleague Aman Sharma, our senior editor, is also joining us on the broadcast. Aman, taking in a perspective from you, let's talk about the state of Madhya Pradesh or the state of Rajasthan, where it's a neck-to-neck fight between the 2 sides, between the Congress and the BJP. What is at stake for the 2 parties? And is it a bigger battle for the Congress to prove that they're actually a formidable force to reckon with? Because how the dynamics work within the India alliance would be decided in many ways as to how Congress fares in these elections in the Hindi heartland.
See, Anusha, both Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh was perhaps the most narrowest elections in 2018. If you look at Madhya Pradesh, BJP got just 0.13% more votes than the Congress, but still it ended up shorter by 5 seats and Congress formed the government before Jyotiraditya Scindia brought it down after 15 months. If you look at Rajasthan, BJP fell short by just 0.5% of the votes, but its seats were only 73 and Congress got 100 seats out of the 200 and formed the government. That is how close it is in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. A slight change in vote share in these elections could mean a big change in fortunes for either parties.
Yeah.
When it comes to the issues in these elections, I think Congress is clearly, and we saw Rahul Gandhi's press conference today also, Congress is clearly banking on two things. One, of course, is its freebies promise, the guarantees, which it's seen has smelt, success both in Himachal Pradesh and Karnataka. Same kind of guarantees have been rolled out, monetary doles, in Rajasthan, in Madhya Pradesh, as well as in Telangana, and also in Chhattisgarh.
Yeah.
They are going ahead with. And the second trump card that the Congress feels is what Rahul Gandhi said today, a caste census. So after Kamal Nath earlier announced a caste census, now Mr. Gehlot announced a caste census few days back, and today Rahul Gandhi said that all 4 Congress chief ministers have said that they will roll out a caste census in the state. This is a ploy to move the OBC vote back to the Congress camp and break in a way the Hindutva vote consolidation which happens for the BJP in the Hindi heartland states.
Now, one more point before you go, Aman, if you can elaborate on that. You spoke about the guarantees in the caste census. I believe the third biggest factor would be the women voters that the parties would want to focus upon.
Absolutely. I think the woman voter will decide the election, Anusha. Ultimately, we have seen that in Karnataka because of the high LPG prices. We saw how the woman voter voted for the Congress in big numbers. Similarly, in Madhya Pradesh, we have seen both sides wooing the woman voter.
Sure.
Mr. Kamal Nath promised a monetary dole for the woman voters and also promised an LPG cylinder at ₹500. That was been countered by Mr. Shivraj Singh Chouhan with this Ladli Behna Yojana, in which Madhya Pradesh government is paying ₹1,250 per month to nearly 1.3 crore women in the state for the last 4 months. So that's a big scheme. Then they have the cheapest LPG cylinder in the country right now is being offered in Madhya Pradesh at ₹450. If we move to Rajasthan, Mr. Gehlot has been offering a LPG cylinder at ₹500 for the last 1 year. So clearly, Madhya Pradesh is one state where the BJP has taken what many now say the freebie route, but it has avoided that in Chhattisgarh or Rajasthan. So it also remains interesting which way the woman voter will swing. Is inflation a big issue? Is price rise a big issue? And will the freebies offered by the Congress or by the BJP in Madhya Pradesh, for example, swing the woman voter? There are nearly 49% women voters in Madhya Pradesh, Anusha. So in a way, they're the big vote bank, and I think both parties are keenly wooing that vote bank to come to their side, because that vote bank also cuts across all the caste barriers.
All right. Thank you, Aman, for elucidating all those aspects of this big story, the big political battle, the precursor to 2024. Aman getting us all the details on that big story. Let's move on and get our guests also into the discussion. Siddharth Yadav, the spokesperson of the BJP, Ms. Sujata Paul, the spokesperson from the Congress party, Sanjeev Srivastava, who's a senior journalist, and Daniel Francis, who's a political analyst, is joining us on the broadcast. Good evening to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Plain Speak tonight. Siddharth, first to you. The anti-incumbency in Madhya Pradesh is very strong. And indeed, it's one state that the BJP would want to ensure that it captures yet again. But many experts argue that the present chief minister is not on a good footing.
No, Anushka, I feel the people of Madhya Pradesh have realized that the rule, the governance that currently is in Madhya Pradesh has been the best ever governance that has been done to the state. Congress party has ruled the state for the longest time after the independence of our country. For the longest time. And what was the state of affairs? The people of Madhya Pradesh are very well aware of that. In the past 18 years, under the rule of Shivraj and all our chief ministers, under the rule of Bharatiya Janata Party, Madhya Pradesh has seen new heights. It has come out of the tag of being a Bimaru Rajya to the one where international investors are willing to come and invest. Law and order has improved. The infrastructure has improved like anything. And the people can feel the resonance of that. Not even that, the young voters of the state who have more opportunities now are also very horrified even if they hear about what was the rule under the Congress. So I think it is very clear for the voters to choose, and Madhya Pradesh has set an example of how good governance can happen, how budgets can be utilized for the welfare of the people in a matter of optimum utilization, in a matter which can maximize the benefit that the people gain. And in that case, we are very confident that we are going to repeat. And when it comes down to the other two states also, in Rajasthan and specifically in Chhattisgarh, if we draw a stark comparison between Madhya Pradesh, between Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh, we have seen what in the last 5 years, forget the past, but in 5 years, what is the development gone down to the roots, to the ground level, to the villages, to Gram Panchayats. What has happened in Rajasthan and what has happened in Madhya Pradesh? In Rajasthan, in Chhattisgarh, not only corruption, but the entire governance, the entire machinery of the state has failed the people. We have seen the Lal Diary, we have seen the paper leak,
I'll
we have
come to
seen
those.
the
I'll come to
Ghotala.
those two states, and my question to you would be then about the leadership in the state, because the Congress party is banking heavily on the regional satraps or the regional leaders that they have there. But before the opening questions for all the panelists, Sujata ji, the Congress party has much at stake. Even if I were to agree with what various experts are citing, that the Congress party is on a strong footing in Madhya Pradesh, or Bhupesh Baghel has the support of the people, even if I were to take these arguments on the face value, the sheer fact that if you don't perform well, or the scenario that you don't perform well in these elections, could be a death knell for the Congress party, the sort of position it wants to enjoy within the India alliance, that could be jeopardized. In that sense, in that perspective, is that a do or die battle for the grand old party? Sujata ji.
This is a country which is a social welfare state, and that's why when we are talking today about the elections in these 5 states, this is clearly going to give an indication as to what is going to happen in 2024 Lok Sabha. The BJP is going to be routed out. And why do I say it? We just spoke about Madhya Pradesh, and I was really amused because parliamentarians are being fielded over there. Kailash Vijayvargiya says, I don't want to contest elections. And the BJP spokesperson is talking about the governance model. The governance model is truly there. The Mahakal corridor corruption is out there for everyone to see. The Mahakal corridor, which was begun during the time of Kamal Nath ji. The government was brought down. The BJP was not in governance over there. They brought down the Congress party government. The paper leak issues have plagued the government over there, the people over there, and the youth especially. If you look at the Vyapam Ghotala, which has been going on and on and on, and that is the hallmark of the BJP rule for all these years that they have been in Madhya Pradesh. Of course, people have been cheated big time. But when you talk about the Congress party, we've been working on the ground, and even the Asha workers, the Anganwadi workers, and I have been in touch with them on the ground, and I've seen the kind of demands they have made, which are not really too much. But the government.
But Sujata ji, you didn't answer my point, as in how critical this battle is for the Congress party. I take all the points that you've mentioned. I take your opening comments. But in terms of your own political survival and validity within the Indian alliance.
It's not about survival. It is, like I said, the BJP government is going to be routed out, and we have set the ball in motion with Karnataka and Himachal Pradesh results. We are a social welfare state. We are going in for social justice, the empowerment of people, progressive development is what we are talking about. We are talking about bringing back the old pension scheme. We are talking about giving good governance, and the people of Rajasthan have recognized it. We are talking about the caste survey today because the Madhya Pradesh government specifically has oppressed the Dalits, the tribals, and every person
I'll come to those very specific issues that you're raising. Let me take opening comments from Mr. Sanjeev Srivastav and Daniel Francis as well. Sanjeev ji, first to you. It's a single phase elections for all the states barring Chhattisgarh. That's going to be in 2 phases, and of course for internal security reasons. But do you see these elections hinged primarily on caste census, women voters, and of course the freebies or the guarantees which are being talked about? Religion, how crucial or critical role will religion or the narrative around religion will play, especially in the Hindi heartland? Sanjeev ji.
So I'll pick up from your last point.
Sure.
The religion, or let's put it more straight, the Hindu-Muslim dynamics will be a major factor, and I'm sure, and we know, we are listening since this Israel-Hamas conflict has become, how this is also being weaponized by the BJP in a certain manner, and the Congress really does not know how to handle this. Because most people would think in terms of Hamas being a terrorist organization and calling a spade a spade. But this is an old catch-22 with the Congress party. But this will be, the Hindu-Muslim dynamics will be an issue. I think caste census won't be an issue in Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan. It may be to some extent in Madhya Pradesh. I strongly object to the word freebies or doles or anything like that. They are social welfare measures.
Yeah.
And everybody's entitled. It's taxpayers' money going to the most needy. When you write off loans of big industrialists, when in LCLT schemes, people take 90% haircuts and the same industrialist comes from backdoor and buys his company again. All those are real freebies and doles and
that's a valid point to me. That's a valid point to me.
I'm just trying to make my point.
Yeah.
So on social welfare measures, I think Rajasthan is right now one of the top rung states, if not the top. But like Aman Sharma, your political editor, was pointing out, both in Rajasthan and MP, the margin of difference in 2018 was less than 1%.
Yes.
In one case, 0.5%, in one case, 0.13%.
Yes.
So like in Rajasthan, Congress won with a margin of 0.5% vote. And with the history of 25 years that there is alternate governments coming in, can the Congress, on the back of their social welfare measures and these populist schemes, can they really cross that threshold of, because remember there was anti-incumbency against Vasundhara in 2018.
Yeah.
Maybe there is not much anti-incumbency against Gehlot, but there is anti-incumbency against his MLAs and ministers. So I think that's $1 million question. I don't know the answer.
And that point, Sanjeevji, about the anti-incumbency against the Gehlot MLAs is something that my colleagues have also been pointing out through the course of the broadcast. Daniel, I'll take that point with you. I'll come back to you, Sanjeevji. Daniel, do you believe the very critical states of Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan, where the winning margin or the voting share, the difference between the voting share of the two parties, the winning and the losing party, was less than 1%. And that is the reality of the voting system that we follow in this country. How critical these states are for the Congress and the BJP. Talking about the state of Rajasthan, where it is argued that there is a lot of anti-incumbency against Ashok Gehlot MLAs. And the factor called Sachin Pilot, how will that really play out in your understanding? Daniel. Daniel, am I audible to you? Can you hear me?
Yes, I was on mute. Sorry.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Political history in Rajasthan shows us that the governments have almost alternated between the Congress and the BJP. This time around, the situation, what it would be, of course, the results will tell. But there are, if we have to analyze something today, what these states would look like after elections, we need to talk about the X factors. Like Sachin Pilot is an X factor for the Congress. How can it contribute to the victory or the fall of the Congress party? Similarly, the silence and the sidelining of Vasundhara Raje is also an X factor for BJP. In Madhya Pradesh, the unity of the Congress is an X factor. The whole multiple anti-incumbencies against Shivraj Singh Chouhan, a certain tiredness to back again, that also is an X factor for the BJP.
Yeah.
We are seeing that the BJP's presence is not felt. There is an alternative to Baghel, and Baghel has delivered a very popular government and popular administration, covering a lot of ground.
Yeah.
So, these three important states, there are we need to realize these X factors that can actually add to the votes, add to the fortunes of the political party. In my view, Rajasthan looks tough for the Congress. Madhya Pradesh looks tough for the BJP. Chhattisgarh, the Congress may retain.
Yeah.
And, these are three important states that we are
Absolutely.
looking at.
I want to specifically talk about the state of Rajasthan, and Siddharth Yadav and Sujata Paulji, coming back to you. Sujata ji, when it comes to the state of Rajasthan, two factors I want you to talk about. One is the fact that experts on the panel, and even earlier during the broadcast today, reporters on the ground have said that there is a lot of angst against the MLAs of Ashok Gehlot. And then there is the internal factor within the Congress party called Sachin Pilot, who's openly not supporting of the present chief minister. These internal schisms or problems, will they dampen the prospects of the Congress party? Are you cognizant of them? Sujata ji, first you.
All right. So that's one question. You said there were two questions.
2 points.
So is there any?
Two points.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the fact is that the Rajasthan government, when we go into elections, what is the work that the Rajasthan government has done? What is it that they have delivered? That is always going to be more important. And the kind of governance that we have given has been proved by the Prime Minister, no less, when he spoke during a speech. He gave a speech and he said that we are not going to shut down any of the schemes that the Ashok Gehlot government has given to the state of Rajasthan. But second, when he said that we have decided to give the Ujjwala the gas cylinder under Ujjwala at 600 rupees per cylinder, people are already getting it for 500 rupees. Why would they opt for something which is coming at 600 rupees? In addition to that, the Chiranjeevi Yojana, which gives health insurance of 25 lakhs, he is saying that I'm going to give you Ayushman Yojana, which is going to give you an insurance of 5 lakh rupees. So my first answer is that it is the schemes which are always important. And of course, when you are in power, there will be annoyance with a particular MLA or some of the people. But overall, what is it that people are looking for? People always understand, and the electorate is the Janata Janardan, and they know that.
What about the factor called Sachin Pilot?
Coming to that.
Yeah.
Second point. This is a narrative which has been put into existence itself by the BJP, and they would like people to believe that Sachin Pilot is not on board. But if you look at any meeting which is happening in Rajasthan right now for elections, Sachin Pilot is there.
There was a point when Sachin Pilot was openly threatening a dharna or a protest of sort against the present Rajasthan government because they had not done certain investigation against the BJP leader, including Vasundhara Raje. And the open defiance was something that was taken into cognizance by the party high command as well. This is not something purely created by the BJP or certain sections of
No. I was going to answer that, Anusha ji. I was going to answer that. Yeah. That, of course, in the minds of people, there would be questions as to what happened earlier as far as Sachin Pilot was concerned. But today, when the Congress party is united, what do the people see? People see a united Congress party, Sachin Pilot with Ashok Gehlot ji everywhere, in every meeting, taking very important decisions. He's not being isolated, right?
Okay.
But if you look at the BJP, my final point, the BJP, you have a Punia, you have a Shekhawat, and Shekhawat ji is going to be pitted against Ashok Gehlot. If that happens, it also means that not only Vasundhara Raje is going to be pushed back, but also Shekhawat ji, who
I think I should bring in Siddharth ji into the discussion. Siddharth ji, you can respond to what Sujata Paul just said. But do you actually have a strong regional face like Ashok Gehlot to pitch against Ashok Gehlot from the BJP? Because there are various accounts which argue that Vasundhara Raje does not enjoy the kind of support from the central leadership like various other, state leaders really have.
I think the face of Congress party and the rule in the past 5 years in Rajasthan is enough for people to throw them out, because the people currently are fed up of what is happening in Rajasthan. Ma'am was talking about so much about the schemes. What happened to the fuel prices? Why would you not reduce the VAT? Why would you, in the state of Rajasthan, have the maximum rates, maximum prices for petrol and diesel, just to build a narrative that the fuel prices in the country are skyrocketing? A difference of 10 rupees, 15 rupees from state to state. That happens. What for? For your development, for the people of Rajasthan. What happened in paper leak? No state has ever seen the future of youngsters brought down like anything. All papers leaked, all examinations leaked, for so much that you have to bring a law for the same. And you are not able to prosecute not even a single person, no officer, because all your MLAs, all your ministers are involved in that. What happened to the crime cases? Highest in the country. 6,000 rape cases in the year, 17 rape cases a day. And now you're talking about the infighting. There's no infighting. Oh God, for God's sake. We have never seen, and I find it kind of surprising sometimes, that a chief minister of a state was being promoted to the national president. We can't forget that episode.
All right, a quick response from Sujata ji before I close the debate.
I'll just complete. I'll just take
10 seconds. 10 seconds, Siddharth ji. Finish your point.
Yes. We have never seen that a chief minister, just for the hunger of power, he said, I don't want to become the national president. Everybody's dream is to become a national president of a national party.
All right, Sujata Paul.
That is what corruption.
देते हैं भगवान को धोखा, इंसान को क्या छोड़ेंगे? देते हैं भगवान को धोखा, इंसान को क्या छोड़ेंगे? The fact is that the BJP has exhibited its double speak right now. When you talk about the women of Manipur, they will talk about Rajasthan, but Rajasthan has taken action
I'm
against
talking
any
about the women of Rajasthan. Why do you want to go to Manipur? Answer for Rajasthan. Are daughters of Rajasthan not daughters of India?
All right, that's all the time. That's all the time that I have.
You haven't.
That's all the time that I have. But Siddharth Yadav, Sujata Paul, Sanjeev Srivastav, Daniel Francis, thank you all for joining us on Plain Speak tonight. And of course, indeed, the elections are going to be very interesting to watch out for. It's the precursor to the big battle of 2024. We're slipping into a very short break. Much more lined up on the other side.
State member of the United Nations called Iran, and we have to be careful also regarding the potential threat from Iran.
Now, as Israel has launched its massive counter-offensive against the Hamas militants, let's listen in to what the Prime Minister had to say regarding the attack.
את כל המקומות שהחמאס נערך בהם, של עיר הרשע הזאת, כל המקומות שהחמאס מסתתר בהם, פועל מתוכם, נהפוך אותם לאיי חורבות. אני אומר לתושבי עזה, צאו משם עכשיו, כי אנחנו נפעל בכל מקום ובכל העוצמה. בשעה זו מתארים כוחות צה"ל את אחרוני היישובים ממחבלים. הם עוברים יישוב, בית, ומחזירים את השליטה לידינו. אני שולח חיבוק ותנחומים מעומק הלב למשפחות השכולות שיקיריהן נרצחו היום בדם קר ובאכזריות אין קץ.
Well, CNN News 18's Siddharth Mishra spoke exclusively to Israeli ambassador to India till 2018, Daniel Carman, about the Hamas attack on Israel. He discussed Israel's game plan next and the situation on the ground right now. Listen in to what the conversation was.
World is expecting perhaps something big is going to happen in next 24 hours. How do you read these developments?
Well, first of all, we have to state the obvious. We are in a state of war.
Okay.
Since yesterday, when Hamas terrorist organization attacked our country. A terrorist organization that during those years has gained strength, has become an army, has become a political ruler of the Gaza Strip, and yesterday has surprised us, I would say, unprecedented way. On the one hand, launched thousands of rockets hundreds of terrorists on vehicles, walking from the air, from the sea, in a very planned attack, infiltrated the territory of Israel, entered into villages, towns, and localities, actually attacked civilians, not soldiers, attacked civilians, went into houses, massacred the elderly, children.
Welcome back. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Anusha Soni. Less than 3 days after Hamas' deadly attack on Israel, more than 120,000 people in Gaza have been confirmed displaced among a barrage of retaliatory Israeli strikes. Israel has reported more than 800 deaths so far. Israel also prepares to implement a total blockade on the Gaza Strip and is drafting a record 3 lakh reservists in its response to the multi-front Hamas attack. A music festival just a few kilometers away from Israel's militarized border with Gaza became a site of deadly chaos when militants from Gaza Strip suddenly swept the area, gunning down hundreds of people and snatching several more. This was clearly something that had taken the country by complete surprise. Israel has likened the assault to a 9/11 or a Pearl Harbor wrapped into one. As Israel declares war against Hamas following the deadly attack, here in India, CPN and the Congress Party, including the AIMIM, have shown support for the Palestinian cause and declared Israel as the oppressor. This is clearly something which is completely contradictory to the foreign policy position that the Indian government has taken, receiving a sharp retort from the BJP. We discuss about the conflict in West Asia, the domestic politics around it, here on Plain Speak tonight. Joining us on the broadcast is Nidhi Singh, who's a student in Tel Aviv. She's a student of life sciences. Abhijit Iyer Mitra, who's a senior fellow at the Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies, is also joining us on the broadcast. We're expecting Manju Said, the former diplomat, also to join us in just a bit. But Nidhi, first to you, how is the situation in Tel Aviv right now?
The situation in Tel Aviv is particularly there's orange alert been issued here, and we're expected to follow all the government guidelines and stay in our dorms for now. The situation does not look very good because it's not really safe to step out in general, and we are advised to stay inside for as much as you can because you never know when the siren will go off or if there is a missile that's following, falling nearby or some other area. So that's a pretty serious situation here.
What are the guidelines that the government has given to you, to the many students? Are there more students of Indian descent there who are worried? Have you spoken to them? Is your family worried right now? I'm sure they must be.
Yeah, there are many students here who are pursuing different degrees. People are worried. They're advised to stay inside. Now, the guidelines are very simple that we avoid movement, no physical classes, very bare minimum movement is there. The campus gates are sealed, except 1 or 2 gates which allow you free movement. They're avoiding and they're asking us to avoid going on the main streets for any work, etc. Things that can be handled here are being advised to do that way.
Yeah,
my family is concerned, like any other family would have been because of the situation here. But the university and the government have taken like a lot of care, especially for international students and people who are from other countries currently in the country.
Yeah. Abhijit, coming to you as Nidhi narrates what exactly is happening in Tel Aviv, the death toll has gone sharply up in Israel, and of course the counter-strikes have also begun on the Gaza Strip. The Palestinian, the authorities have also expressed concern, but at the same time the government in Israel has said that they're going to push back, and this is going to push back Hamas by about 50 years. Talking to you about the position that the Indian government has taken and the sort of reactions which are coming in from various political parties, say the Congress or the AIMIM, what sort of political reactions through the political spectrum we have seen as far as this particular conflict in West Asia is concerned, and how critical is India's position vis-a-vis Israel in present-day context?
The thing is, other than the CPI, which has taken quite a virulent, the communist parties which have taken a virulently anti-Israel position, the Congress has pretty much tried to appear neutral in some sense, equivocated.
Sure.
The Prime Minister, on the other hand, has not equivocated. He has not mentioned the Palestinians at all. He has only expressed sympathy for Israel and says that India stands by Israel. I think in many ways, some of the videos that we've seen of the horrific crimes that were perpetrated on innocent Israelis, I think there's been a very significant, polarization of the electorate that has happened. And I think even politically, you're looking at this the way it's playing out. The communist bunch, they have very little to lose. They've got virtually nothing in parliament. The Congress has more to lose. The BJP has the most to gain. So you're seeing each one playing to a sort of political reality as they perceive it on the ground. And the way, the social media narrative is playing out. I think in this particular case, because ever since Elon Musk took over Twitter, you're seeing a much greater ground reality of what is happening in which would have usually been completely blanked out before this. So, I think that's having a huge psychological impact on people, because those videos that come up on Twitter are being downloaded. They are being dispersed on WhatsApp. There are several Telegram channels, including the official IDF channel and the official, it's not official technically, but the Hamas channel, where they release videos, which are also getting circulated.
Yeah. Abhijit, there's always been, whether there's political support or not, but there's always been sympathy for the Palestinian cause, and especially the human conditions that prevail along the Gaza Strip. But with the latest spate of attacks that we have seen, which is not against the military army establishment or the government institutions, directed towards civilians, has the sympathy factor gone down in popular discourse for the Palestinian cause?
I have literally never seen such a complete evaporation of sympathy for the Palestinians before.
Sure.
I think, generally, all Indian, I think a general human reaction is to, always side with the underdog in a way. And, as much as we used to respect Israel's right to retaliate, there was always some kind of sympathy, saying, you can't go beyond a point. I think this has crossed a certain threshold. I think the videos that we've seen are so horrific. The scale of this is so horrific. India is 200 times the size of Israel. So, the death toll is now 800. That is, the Israeli equivalent of 1.6 lakh people dying for them psychologically.
Sure.
That's like almost as if a nuclear bomb went off in Israel. And that kind of a psychological trauma. And we see it in India. And if you notice, there are people even on the left who would normally, whitewash or normalize something like this, who are coming out very, very strongly against this, who are being attacked by ideologues, and it's not going down well at all.
Manju Seth, the former diplomat, is also joining us on the broadcast. Good evening, ma'am. Pleasure to have you on the show. We're discussing this conflict in West Asia and talking about the various, angles to it. We have a student, Nidhi, with us from Tel Aviv, and she told us about the kind of restrictions that exist, how the campus gates are sealed. The government has issued guidelines and notification. And Abhijit Iyer Mitra was talking about how the sympathy factor for the Palestinian cause seems to have completely evaporated. Why don't you tell us a bit more about the foreign policy position that India has taken, a very clear statement that came from Prime Minister Narendra Modi vis-a-vis Israel. Our policy, our approach has been consolidated and consistent, and it is likely to be so through this conflict. Manjuji.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right that this conflict is something, as our Prime Minister described it, it's a terrorist attack, and we have condemned it, and it's something which is not acceptable. And the fact that the Hamas has always been saying that Israel should not exist, and it has its supporters, other countries in the Arab world, and it has taken on this policy of trying to end or to finish off Israel. And Israel has always been very consistent in its sort of approach, and India's approach to Israel. While earlier we were quite sympathetic to the Palestinian cause, but I think over the years our ties with Israel have become very, very strong and very, very, very multifaceted, let me put it. And that is visible now in our approach, because the Palestinians have taken a kind of terror strike attack, kind of mode.
And against the civilians. And against the civilians. This is not against the army or the police or the government establishment. It's against
targeting
civilians.
the civilians. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's not like an armed warfare or anything. They are attacking civilians, taking his civilians hostage.
Yeah.
And as we saw yesterday, it was really a very heart-wrenching scene and videos that have emerged on the internet, which are very, very sad and which should not have ever happened to anywhere. Sure. But somehow I think the terror mindset is such that they just don't care about human life and about civilian life or about anything. They only think about making, striking terror, and that's what they are doing. And the Israeli response has been very quick and strong, and I think India supports this because I think there was no other option. And our ties with Israel, as I mentioned earlier, are very multifaceted, including in the defense sector, and it's a very well-rounded kind of relationship.
Cooperation between the two nations, absolutely. Abhishek, here in India, as you rightly said, that the Congress party has tried to create some kind of a balance in the position that they take. It's only the left party, the CPIM, which has taken a very extreme position. We also spoke to one of the leaders from the party. We'll just play that out in just a bit. But talking about the sympathizers for the Palestinian cause, and rightly so, they have existed in India and across the world. And when it comes to human rights, it must be spoken of. But when it comes to the political discourse / popular discourse, what we see on social media about the Palestinian cause, do you see it increasingly muted? People who were earlier openly supporting this cause now have to draw caveats, especially with the kind of strikes that have happened against the civilians in Israel.
Absolutely, because what I'm seeing now is that people who used to very openly come out or very blatantly support certain Palestinian actions are now constrained from supporting them. They do it not through commission, but through omission, which is that they don't say we support it. They just keep quiet about it and refuse to acknowledge it, which, I think is still very dangerous because the nature of these crimes is so sickening. It is so heinous. The kind of torture killings we have seen, the rape killings we have seen, this is on the same level of the Nirbhaya rape case that happened, multiplied many, many times over. It is, I think there is a sort of, to use the term, parda fash hua hai. There has been parda fashing of this sort of Palestinian narrative. And it's really sad because, Palestinians do actually suffer mostly at the hands of their own leadership. I don't think people realize this, but the biggest victims of Hamas are in fact the Palestinians living in Gaza. Their lives have been turned into hell. Their futures have been turned into hell. The slightest sign of dissent and Hamas thugs will land up at your place, torture your family, kill you and things like that. And now they also, in addition to being terrorized by Hamas, they now have to pay the price for Hamas's actions. So, it's a pity because the Palestinians actually deserve our empathy and our sympathy. But after all of this and the way, the chicanery with which, terror normalizers have either normalized this or kept quiet, it's only turned a whole load of public opinion against them.
Nidhi, I'm sure this must be something that must be widely discussed in your dorms, in your conversation with the students who are living with you. The Palestinian cause and how it's spoken in Israel and the kind of attacks that the country is facing right now. Have you discussed this issue? What has been the narrative that you've come across as far as the Palestinian cause is concerned? And has the sympathy factor really died down?
Honestly speaking, when you talk about this particularly amongst international students, war or any kind of violence is highly condoned in any form and manner. And recently we've been talking about not just violence, but abduction, rape, and whatnot that's happening across those things. In general, when you talk about a community here, which is a Palestinian community here, I do not see that sympathy is lacking. The sympathy is towards both these sides because both of them are greatly suffering because of their leadership policies, like just now Sir also mentioned.
Right.
So the general community, or what I'm seeing, international students, they're volunteering in general for the people who need help. And that is everybody and anybody, whether that's an international student that's stranded, or an Israeli, or somebody who's down south and needs our help, or even the army who needs supplies, etc. Because there are families of these army people who actually are normal civilians who have been deployed on borders to fight for their nation, and they have families. So these people need help as well. So that is the general perception that's been coming up amongst the student community.
All right, Manjuji, I come to you and I talk to you about the position that we have taken. We spoke about what the Congress party said and what has been the view of opposition, which has been far more nuanced, considering that elections are just around the corner and this could be a sensitive issue. But there are various naysayers who say that India should reconsider its realignment of foreign policy and the manner in which it enjoys proximity with Israel. There are moralistic assumptions and notions which are being juxtaposed against the foreign policy position that we have taken. Morality vis-a-vis India's interests. How does one really understand this in the broader context?
It's always in any country's interest to balance or to look at its interests first. That is primary. We have to first, all our foreign policy is first based on our interest.
Yeah.
If it's in our national interest, we can take that policy option. But in this particular case, we were very sympathetic to the Palestinian cause. But we have seen how things have changed over the years. Things have changed quite radically. And our relationship with Israel, which we didn't recognize for so many years, has also changed over the years. So as circumstances change, as circumstances evolve, as bilateral relationships evolve, we take a foreign policy decision based on those.
Sure.
So it's a combination of the ground situation. It's a very nuanced decision that policymakers have to take, that whether it is in our interest, in our mutual interest, and also in the overall interest of that area, that locality. If you look now at what is happening at the other neighboring countries in the Arab world, many of them have also not really, supported the attack by the Hamas. They've given they've asked for de-escalation, etc. So even allies from which it was expecting a lot of support have not completely stood by it, barring 2 countries.
Okay.
So this is another 2 or 3 countries. So again, this is something which those countries are also looking at the evolving situation and how things are in the Arab world and what is the global scenario that is, and the global shifts that are taking place. Based on that, every country takes its foreign policy decisions, makes its foreign policy choices, and India has made its foreign policy choice in this particular matter by considering its national interest, the situation in the Arab world, and our relationship with Israel.
And the national interests dominate our foreign policy interests. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Manjuji. Nidhi Singh and Abhijit Iyer Mitra, thank you for joining us on Plain Speak tonight. We also have M.A. Baby with us on the broadcast, who's a member of the CPIM Politburo. He's joining us on the show, and he has some very strong views as far as this particular conflict is concerned. M.A. Baby, thank you so much for speaking with us. Thank you for joining us on Plain Speak tonight. Your position on this particular conflict in West Asia is starkly different from the policy position that India has taken. Do you think that is it correct to take a position which is not in alliance or not in alignment with the national interest of the country? M.A. Baby.
No, the position I have taken on this conflict in West Asia, that position in fact has been in consonance with the position that Indian governments used to take all along. And Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, when he became the External Affairs Minister of India in 1977, he has taken the public position I have the text with me, that Israel should return all the land that Israel had annexed from Palestine. This has been the stand taken by India government all along. But now, Mr. Narendra Modi has taken a different stand from what successive Indian governments used to take.
Okay.
At no point of time, India government had taken a position totally supporting one side and distancing from the other side. You understand?
Yeah.
So CPIM position and explaining the CPM position, the stand that I have explained is the time-tested position that the freedom movement, Indian freedom movement, took towards the Palestinian issue. Mahatma Gandhi had taken a position on Palestinian issue. The first Prime Minister Pandit Nehru and all the successive Prime Ministers and Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee as the Foreign Minister of India in 1977 government all took this position, supporting Palestine, solidarity with Palestine. We never had even diplomatic relationship with Israel for a long period. Only very recently we have established diplomatic relationship with Israel.
Okay.
That started when in 1991 Narasimha Rao became the Prime Minister. He started some discussion with Israel. Okay. So my position is not different from the time-tested position that India government used to take.
But
Narendra Modi's position is different from the time-tested position that India governments have been taking.
No, but from the times that you were talking about to the times of today, there has been a major shift and realignment of the Indian foreign policy. From the non-alignment movement to a position where India is seen much more than a soft power and India is seen as a power center of sorts. India has consolidated its interests, it has diversified its kitty, and now we have far closer relationship with Israel like various other Western superpowers have. So our foreign policy is completely realigned as of today.
You see, my party's position, as I have already explained, is in consonance with the historical positions that we have been taking from Mahatma Gandhi to even Morarji Desai government of 1977 and Vajpayee, who was the foreign minister of 1977 government. Now you are right. Indian foreign policy has been shifting from the time-tested non-aligned foreign policy. The latest experience is the refusal of Government of India not to send even any minister to the NAM summit. Only an officer represented India. This has never happened. Either Prime Minister would attend or External Affairs Minister would attend in NAM summits. For the first time under Narendra Modi, in NAM summit, there was no Prime Minister, there was no foreign minister.
But sir, as I argued earlier, clearly there has been a realignment of the foreign policy and it's only in line with our national interests. MABB, thank you so much for sparing your time and joining us on the broadcast tonight. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Plain Speak. But we leave you with this very special report as the Israel-Palestine war enters a deadly phase. My colleague Palki Sharma, who's at the epicenter of the clash, sent us this report from Tel Aviv. Let's listen in to this exclusive first post-ground report from the conflict zone. Have a look.
It is day 3 of this war between Israel and Hamas, and as you saw in that report, we heard sirens being sounded in southern and central Israel amid a barrage of rockets from Hamas. So the fighting is very much on. The IDF says that they've targeted 800, they've struck 800 Hamas targets in Gaza, so they're fighting back. At least 7 to 8 locations have reported gunfights in southern Israel. The hostage situation remains very much active. The Palestinians, the Hamas group has taken 100 Israelis hostage, and another group that calls itself Islamic Jihad has taken another 30 people hostage, which complicates Israel's response to this situation, because when they fire rockets, when they attack Hamas targets in Gaza, there is a real risk of Israeli civilians also being caught in the crossfire. In fact, some reports from quoting Hamas say that Israeli action is targeting their own people. I think that was the idea all along when they came to take hostages. As you would know, the death toll overall is crossing 1,100 now. More than 700 casualties on the Israeli side, more than 400 in Gaza. And the fighting is, as I said, still on. 260 bodies were recovered at the site of the music festival in Israel. So that was one of the bigger points of attack for the Hamas terrorists. This is what the Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has said, that they've ordered a full siege of Gaza. And I'm quoting from what he said: there is no electricity, there is no food, there is no water, there is no fuel. On the day of the attacks, on Saturday, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had told Gazans unequivocally that leave now, because we are going to come back with a very strong response, and that is what Israel seems to be doing, and they're getting support from their Western allies. The US, as you know, is promising military support and more, and they have diverted some of their military assets to regions closer to Israel. So America is backing Israel to the hilt. The French have spoken in support of them. Even in West Asia, we've seen countries like the UAE that have denounced what Hamas has done. So support for the Gazan terrorist group shrinking even within the region. We know that they have support in Hezbollah, and Iran, of course, continues to back them. But this is the situation at this point, and it's very, very fluid. The Israeli forces are targeting not just targets in Gaza. There is also a fear of the war spilling towards Lebanon and the border with Lebanon, given the latest instances that we saw of Hezbollah also targeting Israelis there. So it's a very, very fluid situation at this point. And with more reports coming in of a potential Iranian hand, although Antony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, said that they do not have proof of Iran's involvement, more and more reports point to an Iranian hand and how this was planned and executed with support from the Iranian agencies. Any way you look at it, this was a colossal failure of Israeli intelligence. Was it hubris? Was it overconfidence that led to this humiliation? They've ordered an investigation to figure out what went wrong. But this is a country that prides itself in having a very, very strong and robust intelligence mechanism. They are the strongest army in West Asia. They warded off attacks in the past. They are surrounded by hostile neighbors, and they have been surrounded by hostile neighbors since the inception of the Israeli state. Given this history, given the fact that they were heading into a normalization deal with Saudi Arabia that would have unsettled a lot of regional players, the fact that Israel did not see this coming is truly shocking. It is not possible for Hamas militants and Hamas terrorists to have gathered 5,000 or 7,000 or however many rockets they fired at Israel overnight. This is an operation that would have been conceived for days and months, and Israel did not see this coming. At the border, they have very, very sensitive and sophisticated mechanisms and radar sensors and all sorts of latest technology to ensure that there is no infiltration, there is no breach. And yet we saw the pictures that we did on Saturday of bulldozers coming and ripping apart the border fencing. So this is a failure, and heads will roll. But at this point, I think everyone in the Israeli system is focused on fighting the fight that Hamas started this time. And like we said in that report, on the plane we saw a lot of reservists coming in. We know that the former Prime Minister Naftali Bennett and others like him have joined the forces again, and they've gone back to fight for Israel. So at this point the focus is completely on dealing with the threat at hand. But I'm sure in the days and weeks ahead, we will see more in terms of what this investigation has found on the intelligence failure, the signals intelligence, the human intelligence. They've failed at every level.
And men, people who were in a festival a couple of kilometers away, thousands of people in the middle of a festival. We had yesterday our 26/11. Yesterday, 26/11, the Israeli surprise, shock, rage, anger. But at war, like in a war, we are going to respond, and we are going to win this war. No doubts about it.
Okay. Sir, looking here, watching from a distance, sitting here in India, we can say it is 10x of 26/11. What options are available with Israel right now? The counter-offensive is already launched. Operation Iron Swords is going on. There have been airstrikes in Gaza Strip. Perhaps, and we have been told in next 24 hours, 28 to 48 hours, we can expect something big. So what options Israel has now when it comes to counter or perhaps to defend its own people, its own territory? What options are there?
I have to say one very important thing. We have been used, unfortunately, to short rounds of hostilities with Hamas in the past 15 to 20 years. Usually they would end within 2-3 days with mediation from the Egyptians or maybe other parties, and then some arrangements would be made, and then we would have quiet until the next time. This time is different. This time is different because of the magnitude of the attack, because of the cruelty, the beastly way in which they massacred, the October massacre, I would call it. The situation is different, and the response by Israel will be different.
Viewers, hundreds of innocent Israeli citizens are dead or abducted. They were killed or kidnapped in targeted attacks by Hamas gunmen on one of the most consequential Jewish holidays. As Hamas fired rockets and its gunmen barbarously danced on the bodies of the Israeli captives, Tel Aviv dubbed the attack as the worst by Hamas on Israeli soil in a long time. The Hamas was elected by Palestinians and has governed Gaza since 2008. It has been declared a designated terror organization by many nations, the United States, the European Union, and several others. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed, and I quote him, that the enemy will pay a heavy price, unquote. And Israel's forces have launched a punishing counter-offensive. In response, Mohammed Deif, the shadowy leader of the Hamas military wing, declared enough is enough. Deif is, of course, menacingly alluding to his frustration with what many in the Muslim world believe is a, quote, never-ending occupation, unquote, of Palestine and East Jerusalem, the third holiest site in Islam. There's no doubt that Israel has been in occupation of Palestine since 1947 and has been at times self-admittedly high-handed in its treatment of